Oh hey, welcome back. You might have noticed that I am obsessed with Leo Fender's offset guitar designs, the quirky, retrofuturistic, asymmetrical masterpieces that he designed and created in the 50s and 60s, and all of their descendants which have spawned predominantly from the 90s onwards. Have you ever wondered what started my obsession with offsets? Was it Kurt Cobain or Elvis Costello? John Frusciante, maybe Johnny Marr, Jay Mascis or My Bloody Valentine, maybe even Sonic Youth? Or what about The Ventures, The Beach Boys, or even The Cure? Or any iconic artist who is known for playing an offset guitar? No. But this is a recreation of the guitar that started it all for me. And today I'm going to take you on a journey back in time to the start of my love affair with the Fender Jaguar. In order to get the time machine powered up, please like this video and share with me in the comments what guitar was it that started it all for you. To make sure we've got enough power for the trip back as well, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notifications to make sure that the algorithm doesn't trick you out of offset guitar content. And please share this with an offset guitar loving nerd. Alright, sweet, I think that should do it. Let's jump back in time now 17 years. The year is 2008. We're in the middle of the global financial crisis. I've just missed out on the best time to be alive as a guitar player in the UK, with the exchange rate unbelievably favourable for buying US made guitar products. The exchange rate will never fully recover. My guitar rig consists of a Teisco Telecaster Deluxe with 2 gold foil pickups, each with a Jaguar style on-off switch and a floating offset style vibrato, which my dad bought me for £5 from a car boot sale. Everyone at school tells me that this is useless garbage, which sounds crap and cannot stay in tune. So eventually I'll smash it up in a bitter fit of rage. I also have a plywood Epiphone SG, which is total garbage, but everyone at school thinks is cool, or at least tolerable. I play through a Zoom G1X multi-effects unit occasionally into a 100-watt Fender Frontman 212R, which was Fender's solid-state version of the Fender Twin Reverb. It features an open-back 212 cab with a real spring reverb pattern inside. I've been playing guitar for just 1 year, and me and my guitar are completely inseparable. Metalcore, nu metal, and pop punk are all the rage, and I listen to a completely random cocktail of all three, whatever I can download off LimeWire. The 90s are still a recent memory, and nothing could be more uncool. Except perhaps the 80s, and I can't stand music from either decade. My guilty pleasure is listening to classic rock, blues, and rock and roll. Anything from Elvis Presley and Fats Domino up to Guns N' Roses. BC Rich, Ibanez, Jackson, Dean, and anything else obnoxiously pointy dominate the guitar market, and that's all anyone at school wants to play. However, with all my heart, I desperately want a Gibson Les Paul. Although probably with EMGs. Whenever I'm not playing guitar, and more often than not, even when I still am, I'm watching YouTube videos of people playing Gibson Les Pauls, ideally vintage ones. And this is the winding path that would lead me to the Fender Jaguar, eventually. One day, while lusting over vintage Gibson Les Pauls, I come across this page, fretted America, or Americana, whatever that is. And this bloke, Phil X. He seems pretty nutty, but he has an infinite supply of cool vintage guitars and a ton of Gibson Les Pauls. I begin watching these videos religiously every single day, always waiting for the next one and constantly rewatching them in between. My little 13-year-old brain is desperately trying to process what it must feel like to play or even own one of these mythical instruments. Until one day I come across a pair of videos that will ultimately chart the course of my guitar playing future. I'd never seen something which so perfectly captured the retrofuturistic charm and the optimism of Space Age USA, which we'd learnt about studying the Cold War in history lessons at school. And that sound, that bite, the jangle, so much sweetness. I'd never heard anything like it. It was like a more beautiful and more musical Telecaster. could still sound fat and huge and woolly, kind of almost like a Les Paul. What was this guitar? And that aesthetic, wow, it was gorgeous. I couldn't believe how perfect this guitar looked and sounded, and I watched these two videos over and over again, manually looping certain sections where I just couldn't get over the amazing tone that these guitars produced. I was like a sponge, just soaking up the tone and the vibe. Surely a more perfect guitar couldn't possibly exist. Later, I went around my friend's house and said, "You have to see this." And I showed them both videos. And as we sat under his poster of neon green and pink Dean guitars with matching strings, I could just tell he didn't get it. But it doesn't have EMGs though. And it's not a BC Rich or an Ibanez, or even a Les Paul or an SG. Weird. In this era, my nan would go down the shops each month and buy me the latest edition of Total Guitar magazine and my favourite chocolate bar, a dark chocolate bounty. I pored over every last detail on every page, lapping up every last ounce of information I could learn about guitars like some sort of ravenous dog. But the thing I cherished more than anything else in that magazine was the double spread advert that Thomann put out every month. Each month, they published a giant table of guitars, always different from one issue to the next. How I loved examining the miniature photos of each instrument that was included, reading what little information was provided, studying the pricing, and imagining which of these instruments I might like to own one day. However, not once did I ever spot a Fender Jaguar in those glossy pages. And so with my non-existent income as a 13-year-old, and no Fender Jaguars available in the ultra budget category, with Squier not offering a Jaguar model for another 4 or 5 years, and not realizing how many commonalities there were between the Fender Jaguar and the wider offset lineup, and my doomed little Teisco with its vintage style Fender neck, its loud and aggressive single coils, its floating offset vibrato, and the on-off switches for each pickup. I slowly went back to lusting after something which seemed a little bit more realistic, and would routinely search Gibson Les Paul copy into eBay, and was always confused as to why nothing came up. However, the profound impact of seeing Phil X play that Lake Placid Blue and solid rosewood 1968 Jaguars would never leave me. After all, I knew how good a guitar could sound now, and how beautiful it could look. Fast forwarding many years, I'm now lucky enough to own numerous beautiful offset guitars. And having thrown all my disposable income at guitars for the last 18 years, and having owned about 40 different instruments, I can safely say that now I have a Jaguar in my hand, I've finally found the sound and the feel I've been searching for so many years. That same sound I heard on YouTube all those years ago. The Fender Jaguar changed everything for me. From the moment I first saw and heard one, to the moment that I finally played and owned one. This is my identity and my journey as a guitar player, Objectified. So I thought it would be a cool idea to try and honour those guitars that started this journey by kind of recreating both in one. And this is the result. My 1968 maple cap style Jaguar. For the body, we've got this vintage style body finished in purple metallic. And I kind of feel like this is the closest to what you would get if you mixed Poopy Rosewood Brown with Lake Placid Blue. Or at least the closest thing that looks kind of nice. This guitar is finished in polyester, which is kind of era correct. In 1968, Fender would have been using polyurethane, which is a different type of poly finish. Same kind of ballpark. The nice thing about polyurethane though is it can crack and weather in the same way that nitro does. Unfortunately, this polyester won't do that, but we're in the right ballpark at least. For the neck, we've got this vintage style maple cap neck from Striker Custom Guitar Studio. It's not perfectly vintage spec. The blocks technically are a little bit smaller than you would have got from a Fender in 68. And for a quality of life upgrade and a homage to my old Tysco, we've also got a recessed truss wheel here as well, which just makes life a little bit easier. So not totally vintage spec, but definitely vintage inspired in terms of the specifications and the look. We've got a skinny nut width, which is pretty thin at the first fret and goes up to a medium profile at the 12th. And for extra kind of 60s, 70s mojo, we've got a brass nut on here as well. In terms of the pickups and electronics, we have this gorgeous pair of Alnico 5 vintage wine Jazzmaster pickups from Northern Pickups, and we have all vintage style wiring in here as well. In terms of hardware on here at the moment, I've got the AVRI vibrato, and currently this has the offset bridge by Offset Guitars UK, and I like how the gold saddles on here kind of reference the gold hardware on that 68 Lake Placid Blue maple cap Jag. Because this is actually a Squier Classic Vibe body, I've considered so many times selling this body and getting a fancier nitro finished body to match the nitro finish on the neck, but there's just something about this guitar being so close to an amalgamation between those first two Jags that started it all for me that I can just never bring myself to do it. So there you go, there's a little bit of my origin story as an offset guitar guy, and a little bit about this particular purple Jag that you will have seen in a load of my videos, and the inspiration behind it. If you'd be interested in hearing more of my origin story and what happened next between giving up on my hopes and dreams of having a Jaguar at the age of 13 and getting my first Jag and all the steps in between and really coming to love and embrace offset guitars, please do let me know. That's a video I've thought about making before for people who might be on a similar journey or who have gone through that journey themselves or who might be stuck at a particular stage in between. So if you'd be interested in that, please do let me know in the comment section below. Well, I hope this has been a fun and informative video. Again, as always, do share any thoughts you have with me, and I'd love to have a discussion with you in as much detail as you'd like. Cool. Alright then, well, that's everything for today's video. Until next time, take it easy, look after yourselves, and we'll see each other again soon.